Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Rydell, actor and now podcast host, I guess. That guy you've seen on a million TV shows and movies, but you still do not know my name.
And I'm David Allen Bache, actor and sometimes producer. And you also recognize me from lots of films and TV shows, but you probably couldn't name one of them right now if I paid you to.
The two of us and our guests are going to let you in on some secrets on how to make it as an actor and share some private stories from the many movies and TV shows that we've worked on.
That's right. We're going to interview a special guest each week, and we'll get their best advice and wisdom for you about how to break into this business and how to stay in it. And yes, again, there will be stories, stories, stories. So, let's get to it.
This is Confessions of a Working Actor. Okay, thank you again for joining us. And let me tell you guys about today's episode guest. The amazing Jack Merrill, a veteran actor who's been in plays, films, TV shows like Grey's Anatomy, Third Watch, games people play on Bet, and many, many more.
Yes, he's also a founding member of the legendary New York theater company Naked Angels.
Oh, you guys did some homework.
We did a little homework. That's what we do here at Confessions of a Working Actor. You know, I did a play with Naked Angels called Snake Bit a while back.
Yes, I think I was thinking about that. I definitely saw it, and I think we must have met because Jeffrey and I grew up together, basically.
Well, we must have had a drink together. We're going to get into that later. We will jump off right now, and we're very happy to have our guest this week, Jack Merrill. More important than all your film stuff and all the theater stuff and Naked Angels, let's be honest, what the people really want to know about is Hannah Montana.
Oh, my God. Yeah, that's actually really funny. Yeah. Everybody's kids knew me from Hannah Montana.
Really?
For sure. Oh, yeah, I was the music teacher. Yeah. Yeah. And there was a moment when that was all. You know what's funny is about the thing I most remember about her, she was a kid, but she was basically Elaine Stritch. I mean,
Miley Cyrus was Elaine Stritch. I love it.
Yeah. She was like this, she had this voice and she knew what she was doing. She was great. That was fun. Yeah, it's very funny.
Tell us, do you still get recognized from that show?
I don't think so.
No.
That was a moment in time when the kids were watching it. So, do kids still watch Hannah Montana? I don't know.
I don't know.
Those grown-up ones did.
I think the thing that I did a long time ago that people still say something at Sex in the City, that show does not go away.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's a good one.
Keeps going.
So Hannah Montana, I was poking a little fun, but that was kind of an early thing for you. And around that time, was there something else that you were doing? And was that Hannah Montana gig like an amazing opportunity, or was it just one among many?
No, I think somebody saw me. I know what happened. Somebody saw me in something they asked me to read for it, and I got it. That's all. I didn't even really know that much about the show.
Boom.
I kind of read for, that's what happened. I wish there was a better story than that.
Are you kidding? For actors, I read for it and I got it. It's the best story ever. That's fantastic. And I want to ask, I know that Chris is going to ask you about a baseball thing in a minute, but I want to ask, did you actually play the role of Rupert Murdoch? And I heard a rumor that the real Stormy Daniels was in that project.
Yeah, the funny thing is I never actually saw that movie.
That's okay, neither did we.
Yeah, I didn't see it. But that was super fun playing Rupert Murdoch, I have to say. That was great. Yeah. Yeah, that was fun because I had my own jet and we did a lot of golf course stuff, and that was fun. No, I never saw that. I never saw the end of that. I love the director. He's a guy from India. He was so much fun. But then I don't know about you guys, but there are things you just don't see, which I would never have believed that was possible.
Right.
Until it actually happens. And then you're like, yeah, that actually happens. Like, I don't know what happened to that thing.
Were you actually flying in the jet?
No.
Or were you just sitting on the tarmac?
No. It was a studio in Van Nuys, and they have a bunch of planes. Mm-hmm. They're cut sections of planes. Have you ever seen those?
Yep.
It's incredible. There's 4 models. And so what we had, it's just a cut section of a plane and it pulls apart. So we shot on that, but it looked real.
That's
and
fantastic.
It was really fun.
That's fantastic.
And had you played much baseball before in your life before you ended up in 8 Men Out?
Oh, see, I thought you were asking Well, are you into baseball?
Yeah, I follow a little bit of baseball.
A fair weather fan, maybe.
Did your father play?
No, my
Pro ball?
father. Are you familiar with the save statistic
No.
for relief pitchers?
Relief pitcher saves, yeah.
Yeah, my father invented that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's when you brought up baseball. I thought, they looked up my dad. No, my dad was a baseball writer in Chicago.
That's very cool. And 8 Men Out was the
8 Men Out
about the Chicago White Sox where they threw the World Series, right? 1919 World Series. And
correct. But actually my dad didn't have anything to do with that, which is funny. I just got out of NYU and a bunch of us from NYU got cast in that movie.
I was friends at the time with DB Sweeney. And
he was my roommate in college.
Oh, really? I was really jealous that he got that job.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to be in that movie.
Yeah. Well, there was DB, Jace Alexander, Nancy Travis was in that movie too. I guess. Oh, and then I knew John Cusack. There were a bunch of people I knew, but that was just, that was a fun movie to do. And
directed by John Sayles?
That was John Sayles, yeah.
Wow.
Did you study theater at NYU?
I did. That's kind of where Naked Angels came from. That if we want to get into that, but Naked Angels is a theater company in New York, and a bunch of us from, well, I'll tell you what, I was at NYU. I met David Mamet at NYU. My first movie was his movie, Things Change. And then I immediately did 8 Men Out right after that. But I worked with David on Glengarry Glen Ross. I was his assistant. That was my first job in show business.
Wow.
And he kind of instilled the ethic of theater companies in us. And so right when I graduated, I was one of the founding members of the Atlantic Theater Company, which I'm sure you're familiar with. And then I jumped ship to found Naked Angels. And we had about a really solid 10-year run in New York. It's still going.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's why I spent all my time there for maybe more than that, maybe like 12 years.
That's really cool.
Fun.
David Mamet, Jack, I have to tell you, David Mamet came to Emerson College where I went to school, and one of the guys that I had been working in his small theater company knew David, and they were friends from way back. And David asked if a few of us could sort of be assistants or interns on a Vietnam vet benefit that he was doing. Right. And he had written some pieces for it. They're brand new. No one had ever seen them before. And he had just typed them, I think, on a Smith Corona, right? And at one point, he came into the rehearsal room and someone plopped down a machine in front of me and said, "Kid, what you type in here comes out really big so that Stephen Lang and everybody else can see it." And I said, "Oh, okay, all right, I could do that." And Mamet came in with a cigar and he's like, "Put it in, just, put it all in like that." I said, "Sorry, Mr. Mamet, I'm not sure where the sentences start or end. There's not a lot of punctuation." And he said, "I don't care. Just do what you want. Add what you want." And I said, and he left.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not really going to edit David Mamet right now, but it was really cool. I think I was, as a kid, I was like, I'm going to throw in an exclamation point. And that was a big deal. But it's funny, he was a huge proponent of theater companies and actors working together as a group and having a sense of community. And you feel like he instilled that in you as well, that was important?
Oh, he did, 100%. Yeah. Create your own work. Don't sit around and wait for other people.
That's it.
I still do it. I still basically just do my own thing.
That's right.
I'm creating stuff right now. I'm always, I think he actually instilled it in me too much.
Well, so this is a good segue, don't you think, Chris, into we heard a little bit about NYU and Mamet and sort of the how you get started, but I think we're wondering if it's true, Jack, that the Russian tea room figured into your start somehow, and what does Madonna have to do with that?
Oh, yeah, that's funny. Well, when I first came to New York, that was actually before I met David Mamet. I moved and I got a job at the Russian tea room. I was a waiter at the Russian tea room. And of course, at that moment in time, it was like the center of the universe for show business. Actually, I'm going to tell you that this story goes further, and it involves David Mamet. It's a great story. So I got a job at the Russian tea room, and you had 4 weeks to work there, and then you got in the restaurant union. Mm-hmm. So what they did was they put everybody to work there, and then they'd fire them right before the fourth. As soon as you were up, if you passed this one day, you were in. And this one waiter, they messed up and they meant to fire him, and they fired him a day late, so he got in the union. So they couldn't fire him. So we're all very cognizant of whether or not we're in the union. Anyway, the funny thing is that I had a big fro of hair. I had a lot of hair. It was the, early 80s, like 80. I think it was 1980. I had a lot of hair. And they said, you're going to have to cut your hair. So I went and cut my fro kind of went in a little bit, and I came back and they're like, no. You got to cut your hair like him. And this guy's basically got a buzz cut. And I go, well, if I have to cut my hair to look like that, what about that chick? And there was this girl in the coat check who had all this shit in her hair and she had all these bangles on. And we used to have to go to her for our American Express tips. We used to have to give her the little things. Yep. And for some reason, the coat check girl, I think because she had nothing to do, would add up our American Express tips and then give us a chit that we take to the bar. Well, she was a total bitch. She was really unhappy. And I said, if I have to cut my hair, what about the bitch in the coat check? Why can't she cut her hair? And of course, that bitch in the coat check was Madonna. And when I found that out later, somebody said Madonna worked at the coat check, and she said it somewhere. And I was like, oh my God, that was her. Because she had one name and she had all the rags in her hair. And anyway, of course, so the last day, it's the day before I'm going to get canned. And I'm like, I'm going to make it. And everyone's like, you're going to make it. And the Psychedelic Furs came in. You remember them?
Oh, boy.
Of course.
Hold on tight.
Psychedelic Furs come in. They're completely smashed. It's like late afternoon. And they all ordered the most expensive thing, which was Bellinis, which was like, $80 a piece in 1980 for lunch. You can imagine.
Yeah.
So you're supposed to do this whole service for the Bellinis. Long story short, I fucked it up. And Big Cheese is watching me and he fired me. So I got fired. Oof. So I begged him to keep me because I needed the job. He goes, you know what? There's other jobs. He was like the coldest guy. He's like, close the door on your way out. So anyway, that was the end of the Russian Tea Room. Cut to, I meet David Mamet at NYU. He's a teacher there. He comes in and he says, if I were you, you guys aren't going to learn anything here. You're wasting your money. You should just go out there and work. It's nonsense being at NYU. And so I was with actually DB and Jordan Lage and some other people. And they knew, I didn't know that much about him. I knew he was from Chicago. And they were all super impressed by him. And I said so we waited around after to talk to him after this colloquium is what he said. And I said to him, but if you are telling us that we should not quit and not be here, what are you doing here? And he's like, who are you? So that was the beginning of our relationship. We had a really good time together. And then anyway, so I graduated from NYU. I had transferred. So I graduated mid-year and a friend of mine's mom, I'm from Evanston, Illinois. A friend of mine's mom from Evanston, who was very good to me as a kid, comes to New York. Because the Russian Tea Room had canned me, she decides to take me to lunch at the Russian Tea Room to celebrate graduation.
Perfect.
So we walk in. And, they had booth number 1. I don't know if you guys were ever there then, but they didn't even give the booths away unless you were famous. You know what I mean? They'd leave them empty. Like half the front of the restaurant was empty if no one famous was there. So we walk in and we're about to go in the back, except the people who work there remembered me. They're like, hey, how you doing? And all of a sudden someone stands up in booth number 1 who's sitting there with Woody Allen. And who is it but David Mamet? And he's like, oh my God, I was just thinking about you. And I turn to my friend's mom. I say, yeah, this happens all the time. This is what happens in New York. That's what goes on. And I said, you were thinking about it? He goes, yeah, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm at NYU. He goes, oh, that's too bad because we're going to do this show in Chicago. I said, well, wait, I graduated. He goes, when did you graduate? I said, I graduate in a week. I just graduated. I got another week to do and that's it. He goes, well, could you be in the Goodman Theater in like 10 days? I said, yeah. He said, really? I said, yeah.
Hell yes.
So I went to Chicago and became his assistant on Gary Glenn Rawson at the Goodman. And then we brought it to Broadway and it won the Pulitzer Prize. And I met everyone I ever thought I would ever meet in my entire life.
Wow.
I remember he had a birthday party at that time. I remember I described it as I went and I was the only person there I didn't know.
That's amazing.
That's a great quote.
Jack, maybe you could tell our listeners a little secret, maybe something that you wish you had known back then, that you know now. Some gift for that young working actor, that striving actor that's just starting. The most
important thing is that you have everything you need. I think the most important line is that everything you need is within reach. You may not possess it with you, but it's adjacent to you. And I think you have to see the world that way, and you have to see your life that way and your career that way. And things are within reach, and things do happen for the right reason in the right time. I mean, you just have to, that's just the way it goes. and we're all on a different timetable, and we're all in it for different reasons. I mean, there's different, I know it sounds cheesy, but success is I come from a background that any sort of stability is success to me. So I feel I already accomplished what I wanted to accomplish a long time ago, and it's all gravy. And I think you sort of have to look at things that way. And I don't know that I always did. I feel like I was operating a little bit out of a deficit, which I think we all do,
Right. A lot of actors.
That we do that, but I think
that's right. Sometimes we feel like, if we're not standing on a podium getting an award, or we're not, it's not the exact dream that we had when we were first starting out, right? And sometimes we can kind of diminish things and start looking elsewhere for some approval and validation. That's a good point. And I think that,
I can think of actually one really specific thing. When I got that job in 8 Men Out, I thought to myself, as an actor, I'm like, I've got a machete and I'm chopping my way through the jungle. I'm like this, I'm out there on my own, and I'm fine. No one else has been there. And then I got the job in 8 Men Out, and I was like, oh, I'm not chopping through the jungle. This is a muddied path. Hundreds of thousands of people have been on this path ahead of me.
Right.
Like, there's so many people who've already gone down this road, and it doesn't matter, but I'm just saying, you get these ideas in your head that if this, then that. And that's just not the way it goes.
That's the big break myth. That's if this one job happens, then the rest of my life will be. And none of us have experienced it that way. But
also, you get what you want, which I have done, and then what?
Well, that's the next question. So, what does it mean to you? We ask this of all the guests. What does it mean to you to be a working actor? What does that mean when you say to someone, I'm an actor? What does that mean?
Yeah, that means I have to have been in stuff recently or working on something now. Either I'm involved in the creation of something. I'm not a guy. It's funny because you bring up like TV shows, that it's a lot of that stuff I see that as secondary. And I'm not saying that's a good thing. That's probably a mistake. But I tend to just work on creating things myself. I got 2 projects I'm working on right now, and I got a book I'm working on right now. And so those are the things that, yesterday we blocked out shots for a thing I'm shooting in a couple of weeks. So that kind of thing is what I think is a working actor is. And of course, making at least some money. So you got to make some dough sometime, but Fair enough. Comes and goes.
Sure.
And then when you get it, you think you're going to get more of it, and then all of a sudden you don't have it. I don't know if you've ever experienced that.
Well,
I'm sure you've never experienced that.
No.
That's a great segue into our next question we usually ask, which is, did you ever feel like you wanted to give up?
Funny. No, I should have. I'm like that. I used to say I'm like the guy from Friday the 13th. You stab me and I just get out of the back.
Just come out of the backyard.
I climb in through the window. It's kind of a steady approach. So it's not like, I think it's sort of like I pull the ups down and the downs up, if that makes sense.
And that's
I try to even it out.
That's a good piece of advice. If I can extrapolate from that, it's that, as an actor, there's no real set path. There's no, your assistant partner, and then you make partner at the law firm, and it's all over the place. So if one's door shuts in your face, you got to go around the back and find a window to crawl into. You got to find another way to impress the casting person. You got to keep going. You got to find something different to bring to your auditions. Just not a real tenaciousness where you say to yourself, I'm just not going to quit.
Well, I just can't imagine doing. I mean, it's always been the source. Although I come in and out and do things and then do some other things and come back, but it's always been the source of all my great relationships, my great challenges in life. It's a big challenge. I'm the kind of guy, though. I'll do theater here. I found a theater in LA I've been working with. I'll just keep going. Like, people are like, you can't do that anymore because you're not making any money. And I'm like, oh, right.
Right.
Oops.
Right.
But I just like to work.
But that's, work begets work. And that's another thing, for actors who are listening, who are wondering about, what work should I be doing? What can I be doing? How do I get to that next level? The advice of work begets work and don't wait, create is hugely important, and sometimes we see people that are doing what we want to be doing, and it's okay if we have a little jealousy because that's a great motivator. And then we say, all right, well, now how do I do that? Now I want to try that. I want to go do that.
Well, I think you brought up something interesting, which I thought about. The should I do this? Should I go there? People say to me, do you think I should go to this event? Or should I go here? Or should I? And my answer is always, do you want to? I mean, what do you want to do? Do you want to go there?
Right.
I mean, if you want to go, go. I think that we do. I think that we all have a tendency to actually do what we really want to do. So if you want, if you want to, like I was thinking about voiceovers, because people have been talking about voiceovers with me lately. I thought, well, if I really wanted to do voiceovers, I'd go pursue them all the time. But I guess I don't really want them that much because I don't pursue them all the time. Right. I like them. I've done them.
Right.
But do I want to make a life's work of it? I guess not. If you look at the record, I'm going to say no.
Right.
Would I do them in the future? Sure, I'll keep doing them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. But, before we get to we want to get to asking about maybe, you talked about Mamet already, but maybe sort of a specific story about someone who, really inspired you or something. But before we do, I just want to say, and not to play devil's advocate, but I just want to say that, I think we, sometimes we are afraid to start things and we think, well, I don't know if I want to do that for the rest of my life, right? But here Chris and I are as podcast hosts, and I don't know that we are going to be podcast hosts for the rest of our life, but for us, it's a great way to tell stories. It's just another way to keep working. It's just another way, to get wisdom from someone like you who's been on a ton of sets and been around and share that with people that are listening. So it's a little of both. It's like, hey, wherever you put your energy, that's where you're going to flourish. And also throw some spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks.
Absolutely. Because it's so much better to have tried and failed than never tried at all.
There we go.
I mean, it is though. And you always meet people along the way and there's always I'm always interested in the yes. I'm much more interested in the yes than the no.
No. Fair enough.
No is not an interesting word to me.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Do a little bit each day.
Yeah, that's right. There's a flow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little moving towards your goal, a little bit each day.
Yeah.
Whether it's watching some film, doing a little reading, writing, reading some book, Sandy Meisner, whatever it is, Stanislavski, whatever that moves you.
Yeah.
And
even just going to play, going to see things. Like we're just being involved in who's in this play and who wrote it and what else did they do. And, and everybody's approachable too. That's something else I've learned. I learned that in New York. There's almost nobody you can't get to. If you really like someone's work, they want to hear you. They want to hear from you.
That's also very good advice. There's almost no one you can't get to. If you really want to show someone your work, or, if you have a strong ask with something to back it up, you can get to anyone. This is great stuff. Everything's within reach. I think everyone's like two calls away. Yeah, amen.
Jack,
yes.
Can you do every week we ask our guest this question? Can you give us your worst audition story?
We have, and Jack, I think we have about 5 or 6 minutes together, and we're going to ask a few other questions too. But give it to us straight.
Okay, it's killer. I have to say. All right. Yeah. So, do you remember the talent agency Triad?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Okay. So I'm in New York. They saw me in a play or something, and they wanted me to go audition for them for the office. Now I'm not. They wanted me to bring in a monologue, and I didn't. I don't know. I didn't really have monologues at that point in my life. But they said, bring in a good monologue, and I thought, well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to bring in a play because there's a play that is a monologue. So what I'm going to do is Terrence McNally's written this play called Sweet Eros, and I'm going to do the beginning of the play. And in the play, this guy has a girl tied up to a chair. I can't believe I actually did this. He has a girl tied up to a chair and he's playing opera music. And it's a really perverted play, but I didn't really realize at the time I was a kid. I was like, okay, whatever. It sounds great. So I get a tape of opera music. I bring in a boombox and I get a rope and I go, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to tie up one of the agents, right? And I'm going to get them involved in my audition.
I think I've heard this story.
I don't know. Maybe. I'm sure people are like, well, that's funny too. All right. So I go, I'm going to tie her up. I'm going to ask them to tie him up and then we'll all get involved and they'll understand what a great actor I am. So I go, they have the audition at the Carnegie Hall rehearsal studios upstairs. And it's basically like Flashdance. There's a huge wall of windows and they have this long desk and there's like 6 people sitting there in monochromatic ties. They were like the CAA of their day. monochromatic suits. And I walk in, I put down my boombox and I get my rope and I put the chair down. I go, okay, so listen, I need someone to sit here because I'm going to tie you up. And I had a blindfold too. And I'm going to blindfold you and you're going to be part of it. And they're like, no, we're not doing that. And I go, no, it's not bad. I swear it's good. I'm not going to tie you up. I'm just, going to lay the rope. No, we're not doing that. You stay over there. We stay over here. So I'm like, oh no.
Oh, now what do I do?
What do I do?
Right.
So I thought, okay, start sweating. Sweat starts coming.
Flop sweat.
Oh yeah. I'm like, oh my God. Okay. So I take the rope and I like drape it around the chair. You know what I mean? Just kind of put it around the chair. And then I've got this blindfold and I'm like, well, what do I do with the blindfold? So I lay the blindfold over the back of the chair, right? And I start doing this, and I'm getting ready to do the monologue. And I think I need opera. I got to put on my opera music. Oh my God. Okay, right. Opera music's put in the background. So I go and I press the boombox, and all of a sudden you hear, la, 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 la. La, 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 la. It's my warm-up tape.
Oh, no.
It wasn't opera music. It was my warm-up tape. And I looked at them, and I'm like, oh, it's the wrong tape.
Just gets better.
I was like, you know what? This isn't going to, I think I'm just going to
find another agency.
Nice to meet you.
That was not my agency. The postscript on that is that like 2 or 3 years later, I'm in LA. Remember, it's AOC now, but it used to be Orso, and they had a little
the restaurant,
outdoor dining room. Yeah, outdoors. So we go there. I'm with somebody. I don't remember. It was late afternoon. We go sit down. There aren't that many people there. And I look over, and one of the agents is at the next table. She looks at me, swear to God, they moved their table. They actually moved. They're like, we're going to go sit over there. And I thought either they think I'm listening or they remember how absolutely insane I was at that audition. And they don't even want to sit near me. And they actually moved. So that's how's that one?
That's a great worst audition story ever.
I love it.
Fantastic.
Somehow I didn't take me. I don't know why.
Let's go figure. I can't imagine.
Yeah, it's really weird. I can't imagine.
Well, they were probably a little tied up.
Yeah.
Hey, ho. All right, Jack, we usually end on, although you've given us some great things to pass along to actors, working actors, struggling actors, well-to-do actors, but we usually end on something called the best piece of advice. And, we heard that David Mamet inspired you, but something someone shared with you early on, something you learned the hard way, and we heard about don't wait, create. Right. And those are all great tidbits. Is there anything you would point out to before we wrap up about like one thing?
I think one of the great lines when I was a kid was become the person you always wanted to meet.
Oh,
I think that's a really good way to look at it. Stop looking at everybody else and just like, what, if they're so great, what do you what do you possess that's like that, and work on that. I think becoming that person is a great way to focus yourself with where our culture is arranged or deranged. I just think that it's really better to, instead of focusing on the outward all the time, focus on the inward. Like, what am I doing? What can I do? What can I bring? How can I become what I want to become? And the answers are definitely there. It's going to go slower and faster and slower, and it's never what you think it is when you get there.
Yep.
But so what? It's the journey. And I know those sound like tired phrases, but they're not. It is the journey.
No, I think those are wise words. Very good.
Well, thank you, Jack.
No, thank you, guys.
Listeners, that was Jack Merrill.
Actor extraordinaire and critic of Madonna early on, really recognized her true potential very, very early on. Jack, thanks for talking to us. Really, thanks for talking to us. Me. We were very happy to talk to you. I'm curious, our listeners only have audio, but we, of course, see a very, very hairless cat climbing all over you.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't want to get into that. I don't know if we'd have time. Maybe we have a minute before we play our closing jingle, but I think if our listeners could see, they would say, what the hell is that?
I got 2 of them. And I got a dog. There's a dog sleeping over there, too. So there's a dog over there.
What kind of cat is it?
Zoo. This is a Sphinx. It's a Sphinx cat.
That makes a lot of sense.
I don't know what to tell you. I'm not sure how it started, but I love them. They're sort of between a cat and a dog.
That's a great way to wrap up. Thank you, Jack Merrill. We really appreciate it. And you guys, you've been listening to Confessions of a Working Actor.
Well, it's been another great 20 minutes with you, my friend.
And you too, brother. It's been fun.
Yeah, that was great.
Cool. I thought that was awesome. All right, star that.
That was terrific.
And we got another great guest coming up next week, so be sure to tune in again to Confessions of a Working Actor.